Joyce Erb, paperfinesse.com. Today we'll be looking at a lot of different inking and sponging tools that are available. This is specific to people with weak and challenged hands, but you'll also be able to see other tools available. The first one I'm going to be looking at is this latex sponge. It's made of latex and it goes on pretty well. I'm going to be testing on different kinds of paper. I believe I'm starting here with just inexpensive paper. I'm taking pretty dark ink so that you can see it. I'm blotting off. Now this is the first time I'm using these. They're relatively new to the market. And as you can see, it's not gliding very well on the paper. I'm having a little bit of a problem grasping it, but not too bad. So I decided to try a better paper. This is a Gina K Pure Luxury 110 pound. It's very smooth and it goes on quite nicely. I would suspect it would be about the same for the Nina 110. I also tried rolling more of the end into the ink and that seems to help as well. If you hang around to the end of the video, I have another tip that works great for this tool. And for other tools, it helps it go on smoother. That's pretty darn good. So paper definitely makes a difference. That's a sponge that goes on your fingers. I have a hard time using it. Then there's the latex. That's the sponge dauber. This is a little Judkins brush. Judican, I think it is. This is just called Ink Duster. This one's really easy to hold on to. The Colorbox is one of my favorites. Again, it's easy for me to hold on to. Keep in mind when I'm doing this review, it's not about what tool is good and what tool is bad. It's what each tool is good at and which one's easier if you happen to have grasping issues or strength issues. And these are the three papers I'm using. I'm using the Gina K 110 pound, the Nina 80 pound, and then the 65 pound, just generic, cheap cardstock. I'm using the darker ink. I'm using Gina K ink. And I'm going to continue on with the latex sponge on the other cardstock. I think on the Nina, I added the Nina. I haven't tried it on watercolor paper. That's something I'd like to try it on. Also on glossy. At the end, I do come back and test on glossy. And it works just as well on the Nina 80. Again, this is real smooth paper. I'm not taking my time doing an excellent job here. I'm doing a quick overview of each tool. I have to admit I'm not real patient with sponging. I want to get my ink on, I want to get it on smooth, and I want to be done. The next tool I'm going to use is a sponge dauber. And I don't get very far with this tool. The problem with this now is, see my middle finger there, how it doesn't bend? It's not allowing me to make contact with the paper. So I try my left hand. I can get it a little bit, but the sponge daubers, unless I have some kind of extender, are pretty much useless to me at this point. I am right-handed. You will see me using my left hand a lot just because I adapt. I try whatever works better for me. I don't give up easily. I'm still trying with this dauber till I say, oh well. The daubers are wonderful. If you have hands that work properly, they're wonderful. And this tool is the Tim Holtz sponging tool. And it's got a handle, which does help. And I do use it for some techniques, just not for smooth sponging like this. They work good going off the paper and then going onto it in a circular motion. I keep trying to grasp it differently because I'm having a problem trying to do the circular motion. But this is a pretty handy tool to have on hand. The next tool I'm using is this little Judikins brush. And it does work better if you ink it up really well. And the more you brush it, the smoother it will be. It can show some little streak lines, but if you keep layering it on, it does get pretty smooth. This is one method, this and the ink duster, that you could actually use on the cheap card. And I use these dusters more when I'm doing like a quick background behind an image that I've already colored, like for a sky or something. It just adds a little bit of color, and it's so faint that it doesn't affect the image I already colored. Now I'm going to show the ink duster, seeing it's pretty much the same. I prefer this over the Judikins simply because it's a whole lot easier to use. I think I've got 8 of these double duster handles. I ordered them from the UK. Again, this one works on all of the papers. All of the methods work better on the smoother paper. The sponge I didn't test because I really couldn't hold it, the yellow sponge. But that's a pretty popular one for a lot of people. This one might be cool if you had a little more flexibility to lay on a lot of color for a background. Here I'm using Distress ink, and why I'm using this is it's a little bit wetter, and I want to show you what a little bit wetter ink does. The Distress ink and even the reinkers, see how much easier that went on and faster? When I want to do a large background in a hurry, I'd rather use the reinker because I can load up my sponges easier and faster and cover the paper a whole lot faster. I'm dabbing off a good bit there. Goes on pretty well. Now, what I just did, that little pile there, that little drop, is glycerin. It's vegetable glycerin. And I don't exactly know why, but glycerin, the explanation I heard was it makes water wetter. But what it does is it helps the ink glide onto the paper better. So this is a tip I was telling you about. If you're having a problem with your ink on any of the papers, with any of your tools, add a little glycerin to it, and it goes on a whole lot smoother. It just glides on. Now here I'm actually mixing it with the sponge, so I end up with way too much of my sponge, so I'm dabbing it off. But look how fast I'm getting the coverage. And it also works with the brushes. Right here I'm using just the ink. And now I'm using it with the glycerin, and it covered easier. You don't need that much glycerin with your ink. I put a little bit too much in there. All you need is a drop. But as long as you can hold the tool, this method makes all the tools more usable for doing backgrounds. I'm going to be testing it and showing you how they react on glossy paper. I'll be doing a galaxy background using the glossy paper and the inks. I'm actually going to be using this sample piece. Isn't that nice? Look how nice and smooth and easy that's going on. So much easier to blend. But it is a pretty soft look. Now here I'm introducing a new tool. I'm missing the footage, but if you can see this, what it is a clarity brush. And the bristles are a whole lot softer than the ink dusters. And look how smooth it is. You just keep going back and forth. It does matter how much ink you put on it. When you first get it, it goes on really light because you have to build up some ink into your brush. And this is just normal paper, so I think it's a normal 80-pound paper. And I'm using a wetter ink again. This is the Marvies, and it also is a little bit wetter ink. And Gina K would probably work just as well if I re-inked the pads. But that ink seems to dry a little faster. When your ink stays wet longer, it seems to spread a little easier for me. I'm using this darker ink just on the edges. The clarity brushes, the Colorbox, are my two favorite tools. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick review of a lot of different tools. Some of the tools we used today was the clarity brushes, the Latex Sponge, and the Colorbox, which are my favorites. The Tim Holtz ink tool I also like for doing inking of edges and for stenciling. We also use the ink duster and some other various sponge tools. This is a galaxy that I'm doing as a guest designer for Cut at Home, so keep an eye open for this one that's coming soon. I use some of the sponging tools and also inks to create this. Be sure to check out my blog at paperfinesse.com for links to the products used today. Have a great day.